everybody. Another Manifest Minute for us here. I've got Andy with me, and we're going to have a little conversation about tax time since it's that time of the year again, everybody's favorite time of year. I have one couple, and if they're watching this, they'll know who they are. They call it I think they call it their divorced test period. As they go through and they work on their taxes together. So they always come out good on the other side, though.
Honor.
Anyways, yeah. So anyway, Andy, I think I'm going to have you start it talking a little bit about some Social Security pieces. We'll talk a little bit about some charitable giving, and then we'll wrap up from there.
Yeah. So really just wanted to touch on the changes that were implemented due to the One Big Beautiful Bill. I think the main one that's going to affect most people is that because really we've moved into a spot where almost everybody uses the standard deduction now. It's pretty rare for people to itemize. And so the first thing is that the standard deduction increased for single person to 16,100, for a married couple 32,200. The other thing that changed is if you're over 65, there's a $6,000 additional deduction for each person. So again, a married couple could deduct an additional $12,000, which means their standard deduction is 44,200.
Yeah,
Some of
that's
this
pretty
stuff is
significant change.
right. Right. And
So
some of this stuff is due to income limits and such. So talk to your tax advisor about that. But it's a pretty big change considering that the vast majority of people use that. The only other couple things I think to note, that's the primary one. There wasn't any major changes to tax the ways Social Security gets taxed. That formula is pretty consistent with what it's been in the past. The tax brackets and tax rates were essentially they were set to sunset. Those have been locked in moving forward. And aside from that, I mean, yeah, I think the only other thing maybe worth mentioning is the SALT deduction cap that increased from 10,000 to 40,000. So for those who don't know, that's state and local tax deduction. So it's essentially what you can write off against your federal taxes for your own state and local taxes. So that number has increased, or at least the amount that you're eligible to potentially deduct has increased. So those are the big
right.
ones I think that I would be aware of that affect the majority of people that we were talking to.
Yeah. And the other thing that they did is they added in some money that if you're not giving money from your IRA to charity, you're just giving, writing a check out of your bank account or giving cash or something like that to charity. If you're taking the standard deduction and the, deduction for being over 65 that you just talked about, Andy, you can now also do $1,000 per person of just, charitable giving as well, which goes up to $2,000 per married couple. So there's some changes in there. Obviously we're not trying to give tax advice, so consult your tax advisor as you work through this. But give us a shout, work with an advisor if you've got some questions on this, and hopefully that'll at least clue you into if you're getting more money back, maybe where or why it's coming from if you're looking at things. Anything
I
else
think
to add?
the only other thing I think I would mention just briefly is obviously it's pretty typical, but a lot of the savings plan max contributions went up again. There's some interesting stuff in there about excess or additional contributions you can make if you're over 50 into your 401k plan and so on. So again, talk to your advisor, talk to your tax person, and see how all of those things can benefit your tax situation. But yeah, I mean, most of the things that are a change this year, I think, should help the average person. So that's good news.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. Thanks, Andy. Thanks for the time. And thank you for everybody who's watching the video. And hopefully this gave you a quick little insight. Maybe you need to, help or need some help with it or work with a tax advisor on that, or maybe you're a do-it-yourselfer and you can kind of look at that. So appreciate it. And we'll talk to you guys soon.